Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have an opportunity to work on a reel I haven't worked on before. This is a Zebco Big Cat 50 XT. The reel came into my shop because I had a bad bail, and well, it was a matter of a bail wire that was severely bent, and we've reshaped that now so the bail is tripping. But I thought what we would do is take a look at the internals of this reel, show you how to service it if you have one of these, and well, learn a little bit about the reel itself. It's a reel I have not worked on. And we're going to start by removing the exterior pieces and parts. Start with that handle. That's a through handle. If you see the nut on the or the handle screw on the one side turning when you turn your handle, that's an indication that it is a through screw and that you have a post running through the main gear on that one, and that's how you remove that. I put the handle screw right onto the shaft so I don't lose it, and then I put the handle into a parts tray. Well, if you like the art of servicing reels, like to learn about fishing reels, this will be a learning experience as I haven't worked on it. If you like to get involved in servicing your own reels, well, then I recommend that you subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to my channel, please use the notification button. That notification button will let you know when I'm posting videos. I post frequently, and well, you'll be able to see if that's one that you like. Well, we've just removed the spool by taking the tension knob and backing that off. We'll service that spool later. We're going to remove the click ratchet and the spool shim. The red piece is a spool shim that ensures for even line distribution up and down the spool. If you have too much line gathering towards the top, you need to remove a shim. If you have too little line on that piece, you need to add a shim. Kind of funny how that works, but that will raise and lower your spool. All right, I think this may be a, yeah, this is a reverse threaded one. You see what I did here? I used a deep socket, because if you tried to use a standard wrench trying to come in over the side, you wouldn't have a good grip on that. Well, the deep socket solves that. And again, those pieces and parts go into a parts tray. I'm going to remove the rotor now. As I mentioned, I did need to reshape that bail wire to get that firing again. Underneath that, we have a shim washer and an anti-reverse system, but I'm going to come in from the lower part of the case now. I guess the first thing to take off is this bump guard. And then we'll be able to remove the balance of the case, and we'll see what's going on in here. As I mentioned, the reel came in because the bail wasn't tripping properly. Well, I looked at that and there was a lot of tension on that bail wire, and we were able to kind of reshape it. The closer you get to an arc on that, the less tension will be on the side posts, and sometimes you get a dancing bail because the bail wires is just compressing those posts and not allowing them to turn freely. Well, one more screw here and we'll see what's going on inside this reel. So Zebco is now part of Rather Products, and Rather Products has Zebco, it has Quantum, and it has Lose. And well, Lose has been positioned towards the top. You may recall when you would see Quantum reels being the sponsor of a lot of the Bass Pro anglers, and now it's they've moved them over to Lose. Okay, this case should come off now. It's a little tight. It's probably never been removed since it was put on in the factory. I'm just going to use a little razor knife to try and get some separation here. Okay, well, we can see that it is time, and we want to service this reel. We have a bearing inside there. The reel was running pretty smooth, but it's very dry. So I'm going to remove that little shim washer. That's going to go on the main gear, and oil this washer. Please use fishing reel oils and greases only. Turning it, it's working fine. That's a shielded washer, so the washer will allow water to get in, oil to get inside that bearing. This is the crosswind block. We're going to remove the tie-down screw here that's holding the axle shaft in place. So this reel kind of looks like a Zebco reel has looked like for a long time. It's got that unusual, I call it pot metal, but it seems to be their standard in terms of what they use for the metal gearing. It's not a brass or steel or anything like that. I just put the shim washer back on there. That'll go into the bearing. And with the axle shaft removed, we can pull up. And again, you can see no oil or grease on it. So over time, this reel would have failed because it's drying out. When metal gets on metal, it gets harder and harder for that reel to turn. And eventually, it just quits. Something breaks. So it's a good time now to service this reel. And I get asked frequently, well, when should I service my reel? And I guess there's two schools of thought on that. One is every year, which is what I recommend. The other is when it breaks, and I don't recommend that. Okay, there's two more screws up here that are holding that, and I'm just going to take these pieces and parts and put them into a parts tray so I don't lose them. We'll come back and re-grease those in a moment. I want to take these two off. This is an instant anti-reverse collar here. There's a clutch in that, so it's more common of the newer configurations now. I kind of find this a little unusual because the rotor that they're using has saw teeth inside of it right here, and that's for the old setup for the anti-reverse dog or a backup dog. Okay, those two screws that are holding the collar on come out. Then we can lift the collar. Pay attention to it. If you remove it any further than this, that collar does have a metal side and a plastic side. The plastic side faces down. Two more screws here are holding the pinion gear and bearing on. So we'll take those out. I'm going to leave that collar right there because we're going to reinstall shortly after we remove this and clean this up. Take pictures along the way. When you take the pictures, they'll be a lifesaver at some point. Maybe not on this particular reel that you're working on, but one in the near future. You may just be moving along on this thing, servicing it, get disrupted for some reason. And well, when you get disrupted, you're trusting your memory, and sometimes memories just aren't as good or shouldn't be trusted. All right, pinion gear, bearing shield washer. That's the setup here. Again, use fishing reel grease. I'm using Penn Precision reel grease. If I can show the label. It's available online. It's made by Penn. It's a good fishing grease. I use it because it comes in large containers, and I do a lot of fishing reels. But any of the major manufacturers' fishing reel greases are fine. I've used Lucas's fishing oils. I've used Okuma products. They're all good. Shimano's greases. Okay, we've just given a good coat of greasing to that pinion gear. I'm going to oil the bearing. I oil bearings, I don't grease them. Then we can reinstall this. But before we do, let's just make sure that the case is clean and that you get the old grease. That old grease had to go somewhere. So let's get that old grease out of there. There's a bushing that has remained on here for the oscillation gear. I'm just going to leave that. All right, main gear goes back in, or pinion gear goes back in. Make sure it seats, it's flush here. And then we can take these two screws that I left on my table. I'll grab those two screws and install them in the case. Those two screws are acting as a tie down. One more. Okay, and then we see that that plastic ring that I was referring to, it has two indentations in it. That's going to slip over that, and those indentations are going to kind of match up with the heads of that screw. So it's a burring shield. And it seats just like that. Next up is the collar and the anti-reverse. Just trying to find the side that's gonna, I think we can probably do it this way. Bring that out, put that on. We can bring this down. And notice how it sits here. There's a wing that kind of fits in that slot. Same on this side. And then we have those two broad screws that we took off that are holding that in place. Those of you that know me know these little screws are the bane of my existence, but that's the biggest problem you have in life, right? Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, just leave them in the comment section of this video. I do try to answer those questions in the morning. Maybe you're working on a reel and want to know a little bit more about the reel's history. Maybe you're stuck on a reel. I've gotten a couple of inquiries lately. They've been trying to put the reels back together again, and it's just not coming out smooth. A lot of times folks have started a project, got stuck, come and watch the video on my channel, wanted to know some more. Go ahead and do that. I don't mind trying to help if I can. That's what this channel's been set up to do, to teach you how to do the reel repair yourself. And well, when you get stuck, I do try to help out in that regard. Two shim washers went on top of that. All right, we can actually put the rotor back on at this point. So what have we done so far? We've taken out that pinion gear and we've installed the, or we've greased. After we've cleaned, we've greased and then reinstalled. All right, this is a reverse threaded nut here. So again, it's going in the opposite direction. What you would normally consider the loosening is actually how this will be tightened. And we'll just put a tighten on that. Then you can spin this. Make sure it spins nice and free and easy. It does. So we can move on. We did remove that bearing from the side case. We'll put that bearing back in now. It has to go in square, and it's not cooperating at the moment. We'll get it. I wear a glove to protect my hand from the greases and oils, and sometimes that glove just plain gets in the way. But if you're just patient with it, you can work around and get it seated properly like that. Okay, that's our piece there. Now we're going for all those dry wheels, right? There's a oscillation gear. This is got an offset stud on it. It makes your axle shaft go up and down when it engages with the slot in the crosswind block. That crosswind block is what we took the piece out of, the screw out of, to remove the axle shaft. Okay. When you're servicing your reel, you do not need to drop that oscillation gear, like I just did. All right. Here's your oscillation or crosswind block. That gets grease into the slot and grease on the back. It does not need any grease on the front. And those are non-moving sections of it. Once you do that, make sure you get that over the stud and riding in that track. One more piece to grease, and that would be this main gear. Again, very dry. Makes me wonder how these come from the factory, because I really didn't see a lot of grease in the case. Didn't see a lot of dried grease around, but we know that probably had to go somewhere. A lot of times these reels are made overseas. They're mass produced. They sit in hot cargo containers. They sit in warehouses for some time. They sit on store shelves. All of that stuff is hot, and that can evaporate the greases and oils before they even get going. Some manufacturers actually overload their reels with grease to try and overcome that problem that relates to shipping and distribution. All right, we just inserted our axle shaft. That axle shaft goes into a slot in this crosswind block. Then you want to align your hole in your crosswind block with the screw hole for your axle shaft, and we can tighten that axle shaft's screw. Now we're getting back kind of sort of to the way we found this. We have oiled the bearing in the side plate, so we can just install that. Make sure that it goes on nice and easy and that you have nice tight seams. If you're forcing anything, chances are you didn't install something the right way. Stop that at that point. Go back, open it up, and redo it. And don't think that I don't have that problem from time to time. This is experience I'm teaching you here. I had a reel just the other day. I was trying to get the, I was an ambassador. I was trying to get the spool or gear side plate on. And well, the spool drag washers were extended, and I couldn't get, they weren't going inside the race or the ring that they run against. And I could have just tried to over tighten everything and have a stuck reel, or you could realize that something's not right here. So I would encourage you to stop if it doesn't go on nice and easy. Backpedal a little bit, take a look. Don't be afraid to open up the reel again and check your work. Okay. Pump guard goes on next. Another screw. I guess the good news is that there aren't any more screws in my case here. This is odd. Usually these bump guards, it's a little bit firmer than this one is. But we'll get it. We always do. Okay, that's on. And all we want to do now is to service the spool. And I'm kind of anxious to see what the internals of the spool are. There's various kinds of drag washers that are used. I'm going to guess that we probably have felt drag washers in there. And insert our handle through the slot in the main gear. That's a 5-sided handle, so make sure that you've got it going in properly. Tighten the handle screw down. And if you want to collapse the handle, back this off and it will collapse down for storage. All right, let's go over, oops, 2 more things. That wasn't really an oops, but first thing is we've put the spool or the rotor nut on. We didn't put the tie-down screw in place to hold that firm. We can do that now. That'll keep it from moving as the rotor goes round and round. We have our click ratchet. We showed you that a little bit earlier. We have that spool height adjuster washer. And one of the things I've noticed on this spool is overloaded with line. So you should have 1/8 of an inch of line inside the rim. This is going right to the rim. There's too much line on this one. All right, let's take the clip off that's holding our drag washers in place and take a look at what's going on there and service those as required. This is probably a traditional 6 drag washer set. They are. There's one in the base here. These appear to be a Carbon-Tex type of a hard washer, so they don't require any kind of oils or greases. Oh, there's actually, I'm wondering if there's one more in there. Okay, looks like I counted wrong. We have a 10 washer set here with one on the base. We're going to start with the hard washer, followed by a round washer. Those are called keyed washers. They have a rectangular center, followed by the next washer. Then we have what's called an eared washer. That's going to fit in the slots of the spool. And we're going to put another drag washer in, and another round or keyed washer. Another drag washer. We're alternating the keyed and the eared washers. And finally we end with an eared washer. So those drag washers are all clean. This has got a lot of drag in this one, which is, I guess, ideal for big catfish. There you go. All right, and let's put our pentagon clip back in. Load this up over the top. We'll give it a final test. Sure that's down. Bring our spool adjuster knob, tighten that down. It's holding nicely. Give it a test. Nice and smooth with the new grease. Wow, of course. Make sure the bail's working, bail's tripping. And my only recommendation is some of that line needs to be removed. When you're done fishing for the day, loosen up the drag adjuster so that you don't put undue compression onto those drag washers and cause them to wear sooner than they should. Well, that's it. That's the Zebco Big Cat XT50. That's how to take apart, service, and keep this reel fishing for a long time to come. I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders and essential personnel and everybody involved in public safety, police, fire, rescue, EMT, and the like, thank you for all of your efforts and your dedication to the task and your career choice. And to everybody, this is the time to get your reels serviced. It's coming up on the spring run. Make sure these are ready to go and that they don't fail you when it's time to be on the water. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.